Lots more on that development throughout the day here on Sky News. Now, do you have any colleagues at work that are in a relationship but are keeping it under wraps? Well, the FA's head of women's football, Baroness Campbell, has said that relationships between players and coaches are a concern in the game. She also said that potential candidates for the role of manager of the women's team decided against applying for the job because they didn't want to be judged on their personal lives and, in particular, for dating a colleague. So that's what we're talking about today. It's today's talking point. Do employers have the right to interfere with workplace romances, or should they just be left alone? Well, here to talk it over with us, the relationship expert Felicity Morse and the employment lawyer Matt Gingell. Good morning to you both. Matt, I'll come to you first, if I may. Just looking at what Baroness Campbell has said, she's got two concerns here about a coach having a relationship with a player. One is the issue of abusing their power. The other one is that it's very difficult for other members of the team if two people are in a relationship. And this could really be applied to any workplace in the UK.
Yes, that's right. It is a problem for employers because if there are relationships at work, it can be difficult. But employers can't really interfere with workplace relationships because obviously they're personal and people have a right to respect for their privacy and private lives. So it is difficult for employers to interfere, but there are some issues, such as, for example, when people abuse their position in senior roles, but also there's an issue of favouritism or potential favouritism when people are having relationships with managers or people that report into managers, and it can be difficult because other members of the team may feel that they're not getting preferential treatment. And sometimes employers have policies where employees have to disclose their relationships.
OK, Matt, I'm just going to take a pause there. Felicity, apologies, we will come back to you. We are just hearing that Theresa May has taken to the podium in Beijing. She's there on her 3-day trip to talk trade and investment. Let's go live to Beijing. But in the meantime, we're going to return to our talking point, workplace relationships. We were hearing from Matt, who's an employment lawyer, about the complications of having relationships in the workplace. Felicity Morse is a relationship expert. And Felicity, Matt was talking there about some of the unintentional things that can go wrong through a workplace relationship. Favouritism, discrimination, changing the team dynamic. Is a workplace relationship a good thing or a bad thing?
How we're going to have them in a way that is actually beneficial and the least disruptive. And I think this is a really good place where you can get to know yourself and know how you react to certain things in the workplace, and whether you're actually going to be able to leave an argument at home or not. And so if you start having a relationship with someone at work, which actually, you know, having a bit more love in the workplace is not a bad thing.
Well, you say that until people have a row. And what about the power dynamic, about bosses having relationships with employees who are a couple of tiers below them in the company? That can offer a lot of friction.
Right. So I think the power dynamic is the one place where I would say it's not a good idea to have a workplace relationship, because that hierarchy that comes with work is really strong and it's respected and it's part of the structure of how the workplace works. So I think that can be really difficult.
It's a real minefield for companies, Matt, and you talk about the legal implications of it. When you ever talk about relationships at work, the phrase frowned upon is often used. Legally, what can companies do? Because it can affect their bottom line if some of their good staff have to leave because a relationship's broken up, or they feel that it's not great to work with their partner, so they'll go to a rival, for example.
No, it's very difficult, but employers, as I said, have to tread carefully because, you know, relationships are personal. It's really when there are relationships, as I said, between managers and people that report into them, which make it very difficult. And in those circumstances, it can be very bad for the dynamics of a team. And employers may well have to step in, especially if people are breaching policies and not adhering to a policy, say, to disclose a relationship where there's a management involved. then it's a difficult situation because employers have then got to deal with that and tackle it and try and resolve the situation. And it may mean that one of those persons may leave the organisation.
Yeah, it can be a difficult time. And Felicity, what would your advice be to anyone who's embarking on a workplace relationship? Because let's face it, when it comes to love, it's not often your head that's ruling you, is it?
This is one place where it would be useful if we were all taught how to relate a little bit more and how to have close relationships and manage those conflicts. Because it's not just at work that like conflict is an issue, and it doesn't really matter whether you're in a relationship or not. It's like whether there's conflict. One thing I would say is that maybe set up some boundaries and have like a really clear discussion about how you want to handle the relationship. Like, is it okay for your partner to talk about you with other people at work, for example? I know that's one thing that I would probably put in a boundary and say, like, okay, we don't go to our colleagues with problems that are happening in our relationship.
OK, interesting discussion. It's our talking point today. I know a lot of you are tweeting and emailing us about it. Thank you very much for your stories about workplace relationships. Felicity Morse and Matt Gingell, thank you very much indeed.